All right. Well, that March Madness for San Diego basketball was not the way we wanted it. It ended up being pretty much the worst way it could have happened. Every team lost. No team was able to get, I mean, like San Diego State basketball, for example, and UCSD women, they were in the first four and they even lost that. So they didn't get to the round of 64. So just a bummer because of how historic this was and how great of a time it was, just the anticipation building up because this hasn't happened where you had UCSD in Division 1, men's and women's in their first eligible year make the tournament, and then San Diego State women also make like we're used to the men making it, and that's great. That's fun. But what I loved was these other programs making it as well. First time since 2012 that the women made it. They win the Mountain West Conference tournament in Vegas. And so it was just a really exciting week for me. Just speaking for myself as a diehard San Diego fan, um, and I obviously wanted things to work out better. But yeah, in these four games, as you can see here from the ESPN scores here, we'll go from top to bottom in order of when it happened. North Carolina knocked off San Diego State men 95-68. I already gave my reaction to this. It was people say the perfect storm, more like the worst storm, because San Diego State just wasn't able to shoot well enough. Miles Bird, and I don't want to just only pinpoint him. I think Nick Boyd could have been better as well. But just the scores that you were hoping to rely upon, or hoping that they were going to have big performances, they weren't good enough. And North Carolina, they had R.J. Davis, and San Diego State didn't. San Diego State still got blown out, but R.J. Davis, it felt like he wasn't missing a shot. He didn't miss a three. He went 6 for 6, I believe, from three. So, yeah, it was just one of those where San Diego State, they were going to have to be on their A game to be in that game. And North Carolina had people talking crap about them going into that game, and they were not about to just lay down to San Diego State. But just looking back at that box score, um, just the points, you know, if you're going to beat North Carolina, you can't give up 95. When you're a defense first program or you're known for your defense, you got to give up what 70, 80 points more like that, not 95. So to give up that much, you're asking your offense to be really, really good, and that just didn't happen. You had Miles Bird, he only had 5 shot attempts, but I don't really care how many shot attempts he had. It's more of the impact, and it just wasn't there. Nick Boyd did play 30 minutes, but went 2 for 8 from three, 12 points, and that obviously was his last game as an Aztec, as he surprisingly entered the transfer portal later this or earlier in the week, last week now technically because today's Sunday, and so that's just a real stinger. You know, Magoon Guath comes back, and I was hoping like, okay, San Diego State, they're going to be a different team because Magoon just provides that, but he played 24 minutes, 9 points, 5 rebounds, still had a couple of blocks. But even with having Goon on the court, to me, you still just needed better offense. And North Carolina was able to get out in transition. Obviously, I already went over this in the reaction video. But yeah, I was just disappointed by San Diego State's performance for sure. I thought if San Diego State was going to lose, it would at least be close. And it just wasn't. They were down 47-23 at halftime. They scored 45 in the second half, but that just shows like how bad their first half was. And that just wasn't great Aztecs basketball. So, really disappointing way to finish there. And then UCSD woman, they got in also because they won their conference tournament and they lost 68-56 to Southern up at UCLA. And I don't know a ton about the UCSD program, men's and women's, to be honest, so I'm not gonna be able to elaborate too much on this, but what I can say is if you're UCSD, you gotta be happy about this season. You had a winning season. You made the tournament, obviously, in your first year eligible. You went on a run there in that conference tournament late in the season. Maybe didn't have the best regular season, but that's that's what's cool about March. That's what's cool about the conference tournament is you can steal a bid by having a few really good games, and then you can have a memory of a lifetime. So I didn't really know what to expect going into that game against Southern, and so I'm not. I can't really sit here and be like, "Oh, I'm shocked that UCSD lost. I'm shocked at the result." But Southern did, watch Southern did look like the better team in that matchup. UCSD men, they lost to Michigan. This one was the closest one. Heartbreaker, 68-65. It was close. UCSD was down by double digits at halftime, 41-27. But then they outscored Michigan by 11 points in that second half, but it just wasn't enough. McGee, I believe, had that game tying three attempt, rimmed out, and then Michigan was able to survive. But UCSD is another one where I think you got to be proud of the season that you had. My question with UCSD though is this something that's going to happen again next year, or is this just a 1 year? Hey, that was a great year. We'll look back on that a decade from now, and those players and they can have those memories for their lifetimes. That oh look, we made the NCAA tournament. We got to face Michigan. Uh, I just wonder how sustainable it's going to be. And I hate questioning the sustainability of something in San Diego. It just kind of strikes a nerve with, the Padres and the whole sustainable talk that happened, with Peter Seidler and all that. But with UCSD, I just wonder because they don't have the following that San Diego State has. And when you have a coach like UCSD does, other programs could pay him more money and poach him away. And this UCSD team was filled with a lot of, I believe, D2 transfers. And so, what is this program going to look? What is this team going to look like next year? Who are they bringing in? Is it D2 guys again? Is it other D1 guys that aren't getting an opportunity that they want at another school, maybe a bigger school, and they come to UCSD for that playing time and for that chance to shine? So, I'm going to be interested in seeing that maybe duplication of this past season. Just them running it back as much as they can, obviously, because they can't totally run it back with the roster that they had. But it was a fun watch. I mean, even from the beginning of the season, very close against San Diego State. Later in the year, UCSD may have beaten San Diego State if they played, and it wasn't the first game of the year. So a lot of credit goes to UCSD and their men's program. I mean, 30 plus wins on the year. That's I don't care if you're in the Big West. That's pretty hard to do, and so they should be applauded for their performance. And did did a lot of people pick UCSD, including myself? Was that like sexy upset pick? Yeah, I mean Seth Davis right out of the gate on the CBS selection show was like UCSD Sweet 16. Didn't work out, but I mean they lost by 3. It's not like they got blown out of the water. Um, so they were still a contending program, even in March, even against a big program like Michigan or a big brand, I should say, like Michigan. And so while they probably wanted to go farther, obviously, I think they got to realize like they're UCSD and it was their first year to be eligible to make the tournament. And they had a historic season for that program. And we'll see where it takes them. Now, San Diego State woman is the final one. That was last night, a 9:15 local time in Baton Rouge tip. I believe it was at 9:15 unless it got delayed. But yeah, San Diego State, they got whooped. I was hoping that they'd be able to at least keep it close, but they got down big even after the first quarter, 27-10, and they just weren't going to win this. Was San Diego State women's the program, was it a talented roster? Yeah. Veronica Sheffy, fun to watch. Kim Villalobos, fun to watch. And what a heck of a career she had. Her and Adam Seiko are up there with games played right at the top between the women's and men's programs at San Diego State in history. I think Seiko has her by what, one game maybe, one or two. But yeah, like it's awesome that in her final year, this full growth progression with Coach Stary, Stacy Terry Hudson, to have Kim there through her entire time, and then to get the payoff, because she said in the post game yesterday that all she wanted was to make the tournament, win a championship. Maybe she didn't say make the tournament, but of course she wanted that. What she wanted was to win a championship, and she was able to do that in her final year to win that Mountain West conference tournament to get that bid into the NCAA tournament. So great story. Naomi Ponganiban, I mean, like, she's fun to watch too. There's talent. Callie Clark, what a performance she had in that Mountain West conference tournament game, the championship game. It was a fun team for sure. And I love having coach Stacy Terry Hudson as this head coach for this program. And I commend San Diego State for sticking with her because it wasn't all, sunshine and rainbows during these seasons. And there was a time that probably other programs would be like, yeah, we got to go in another direction. But JD Wicker and San Diego State, whoever, helped make that decision to keep her, saw that she was building things the right way and they were making progress and things were going to happen. They believed, and look what happens. And so, just like San Diego State, over the years, they have on the men's side, they have raised their standard with the deep March Madness runs and the consistent like Sweet 16 appearances and just consistent NCAA tournament appearances. Mountain West win the Mountain West regular season, win the Mountain West championship, the tournament right in Vegas at the end of each regular season. The women's side as well, they are now raising their standard. Coach talked about that post game yesterday about how the standard now is to win the Mountain West. Like they have set that standard for themselves. And so I'm very excited to see what this program is going to do next year. I think I've said this before, but go donate to the Mesa Foundation if you are able. I did it to the men's and women's program. They deserve our support. Again, if you can do it, obviously. And maybe some will just donate to the men's program because they don't pay attention to the women's program. Their main passion is the men's program, and that's up to you. You can decide where you put your money. But for me, the women's program deserves just as much as the men's program. When we talk about the equality and what these female student athletes and female athletes in general deserve, it's equal equality. And so that's what I did in my donations, was to make them equal to the men's and women's programs. And Mesa in March, they're doing their matching like fundraiser. So if you're going to do it, March is a great time to do it, because if you, let's say you do it for $20, well, it's actually $40 because, and I think an anonymous donor is going to match every donation. So that's awesome. But yeah, Veronica Sheffy, Naomi Ponganiban, Callie Clark, Kim Villalobos, Quezada. There was talent on this team, but they weren't going to beat LSU. Um, they knew going into this game that they were going to get out rebounded, and LSU is just different. You know, in the women's game, when you have a power conference school, and not just a power conference school, but one of the top programs in the country, coached by Kim Mulkey, recent national champion, you have that going up against a Mountain West school. It's just not. the same playing field. In the men's game, you can see more of those upsets. I'm not saying those upsets happen all the time, 3-14 upset, but it's more likely to happen. Where the women's game, it's more chalk until we get to really like the Elite Eight, maybe the Sweet 16, but really the Elite Eight. And even then, a lot of the time we can just predict what's going to happen. But yeah, just watching that game, like you look at the size of, for example, Flau'jae Johnson, one of their guards, going up against San Diego State. The size between Flau'jae and Naomi, there's a big difference there. And the ability for LSU to get out and run and in transition, they're just faster than San Diego State. Um, they have some of the best players in the country. It's a different level. And so while I was hoping this game would be close, in my right mind, I didn't expect San Diego State to go win this game. Uh, LSU had a 99% chance to go win going in against San Diego State, and as much as I hate to say it, that was probably the right percentage. It's just different again, like I said in the women's game. It's just different. And um, Kim got into some foul trouble. Only played 11 minutes in this game, so that stung. But even if she played the whole game, let's say, or let's say she matched Veronica's minutes, 31 minutes, she wasn't gonna. It's not like they were gonna win. I mean, you look at the quarters: 27-10 in the first. LSU outscored San Diego State. 22-10 in the second. 24-16 was the closest in the third, and then 30-12 in the fourth. So, more than doubling, sometimes tripling points, almost tripling points that San Diego State scores. One player is not going to make up for that, even if she wasn't in that foul trouble and wasn't able to, or even if she, played a lot of minutes. What really hurt as well, I mean, I can, applaud LSU all I want, and, they have Anissa Morrow and Flau'jae, and they just, they're they have length, athleticism, speed, transitional game. It's strong. If they can do that, like Coach said post game yesterday, it's going to be pretty. It's gonna be a pretty hard out that LSU will be in March Madness here. But what also hurt, like you combine LSU with Naomi Panganiban went 2 for 14 from the field, went 1 for 8 from three, 5 points. Her and Veronica are, those when I look at this team, at least, like those are the two where I'm like, yep, got to score. So, I look at that with the men on the men's side, Nick Boyd and I know he's gone, but Boyd and Miles Berg had to be better. On the women's side here, Veronica Sheffy, 2 for 10 from the field, 0 for 3 from three, scored 6 points. So the two guards there, Naomi and Veronica, they combined to go 4 for 24 from the field, 1 for 11 from three, 11 points combined from those two. And, that's not going to set you up for success. When you look at San Diego State and them winning the Mountain West Conference tournament, go look at the amount of times, or go look at the box scores and the points scored and the effect that Naomi and Callie Clark and Veronica Sheffy had in those games, and it wasn't the same in this game against LSU. But again, it's not like San Diego State was playing a level opponent. LSU is just they're on a different level. They had four starters, four of their five starters were in double digits in scoring. Flau'jae, with some of those steals and the anticipation, like that next level basketball IQ, whatever you want to call it, it's just different. It's special. And when you have bigger players like that, you get down the court quicker. At sometimes, as much I hate to say it, sometimes it looked like LSU was playing. It was like a college team versus a high school team, or you know a, a WNBA team against a college team, something like that. Um, it's just different. So I'm not like upset that San Diego State lost. I wasn't expecting them to win. It sucks, but overall, I mean, I'm still happy with you have to be happy with how this season played out for them. I mean, to make the NCAA tournament for the first time since 2012, to have forward progress with this program, and to just be in a situation where you're playing LSU, and that's a great experience for those players and the coaching staff. You gotta, I think, keep your head up high if you're the San Diego State women's program. Of course, you want that game to be closer, but there were some great moments this year. There were some great wins: UNLV, Wyoming, and it's those are moments that they're never going to forget. You know, watching the selection show and you see that you get to play LSU. That's something you're never going to forget. Getting to hoist, excuse me, that Mountain West trophy. Kim Villalobos isn't going to forget that. Work 4 or 5 years for that, and you get it. So I'm going to remember that more than what happened here in this LSU game. Um, it was it was an exciting time for like this week in the anticipation, the buildup. It was disappointing that all four programs lost, but San Diego State, we there's some cool moments there too, and I think you can make the argument that it was a successful season when you don't have your leading scorer, Magoon's out for a period of time, and you find a way to make the tournament. Youngest team in the tournament, you find a way. So there's still some progress there from San Diego State. But really, what I look at is the other three programs and the history that they were able to make this year. And San Diego college basketball is in a really good spot. We'll see what USD can come up with because they weren't that great. But it was a fun year for San Diego college basketball in general, and I'm just excited to see what's to come next year. With obviously, there's questions about what these rosters are going to look like, but I think these programs are in good spots. So UCSD, both of their programs keep their heads high. San Diego State women keep their heads high, and San Diego State, you know, I'm not saying they should not keep their head high. Like North Carolina played really well, but get back to work and improve next year. Because there were still some really good, encouraging moments, and that's a good roster that they're going to have this next year. Just the standard that San Diego State has on the men's side is to at least get to the round of 64. But for me, it's like Sweet 16. That's the standard that I have, and so let's get back to that.